How's it going out there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at out here on this fine Sunday. September 29th, 2024 is the date. About 11:04 a.m. here, California time. Latest activity here in the green flag, a little 3.6 here, just off the coast of Japan. Notice the western area of the Pacific plate still fairly quiet. That means amplified conditions out here across the eastern Pacific, where California continuing to see some earthquake activity here overnight and this morning. 4.2 earthquake striking on the San Andreas Fault here around the Aromas area. This is just north of Salina, Santa Cruz area, San Jose to the north. 4.2 earthquake shaking things up at about 2:47 in the morning when most people are trying to sleep out here. Of course, I live up here around the Chico area. Did not feel this quake, but quite a few folks there across the Salinas area, San Jose, even folks in the San Joaquin Valley here felt this earthquake this morning. Now, not a big one, but notice that there really hasn't been a lot of aftershock activity following this 4.2. Maybe one little aftershock, a little 1.8 a few minutes later. It is right on, or just, that's pretty much, I would say that's on the San Andreas Fault here on the Santa Cruz Mountain section. This is just an overall pattern that we've been seeing out here of earthquake activity on the ramp up, and it began yesterday with numerous threes out here across Southern California, working its way up a little bit here on the plate boundary, but goodness, let's see what else we got overnight. Most of this activity here from yesterday, but I still think we could see some activity stirring up here today following this morning's event, and also the lack of earthquake activity here across the western Pacific. We normally have that teeter-totter effect here when things are active out here across the eastern Pacific. Well, things are quiet across the west and vice versa. So I'll keep California here in mind for some larger scale activity today. A handful of earthquakes in the region yesterday, quite a few threes out here across the board. So far today in this general area, mostly microquakes, a couple ones. There's a 2.2 on the San Andreas Fault, the southern segment, and a couple other smaller quakes out here. And then, of course, we get into the threes from yesterday. We've seen a number of threes out here, Malibu area, Fontana earthquake swarm region, and just be on guard here, folks. I mean, anything can happen at any given time, and we're well overdue in terms of many different faults, including the main plate boundary out here. The San Andreas Fault is well overdue for some earthquake activity. The Parkfield segment out here is, I feel it's somewhat overdue as well, or getting close to it. Now, the last earthquake on the Parkfield segment was a well, they have a 6-pointer about every 12 to 32 years. It's irregular intervals of earthquakes. You can almost consistently count the time when it's getting close to see an earthquake out there. And it doesn't get super big, but you get these 6-pointers out there every 22 years on average. And the last one was back in 2004. So that would put us at, and September 28th, that was just yesterday. That would put us at 20 years. So could be potentially looking at another quake on that segment. Also up north into the Bay Area, we got the Hayward Fault here. Now, that region has been fairly quiet with only a handful of smaller quakes up there recently, but this is another region that's overdue in terms of larger scale potential. Very dangerous fault that runs through a highly urban area. Nothing but concrete out here and development and infrastructure that we built here since the last major earthquake. And on the Hayward Fault there, of course, the length, right, is dependent on how big of an earthquake it can produce. And with the fault's length here of the Hayward Fault, it's possible we could see up to a 7.5 earthquake on that region of the Bay Area. That's going to be the Hayward Fault. The last one back in 1868 If you look here, October 21st, 1868 here was estimated magnitude of 7.0. So a lot of time has passed. If you think about it, we had a lot of earthquakes back in the 1800s here across the California area. 1812, 1856, a lot of movement. So since then, we built up our infrastructure nice and neat, and our highways, and living the fast life out here across California. But the earthquakes are coming, and it may not just be one. It may trigger a sequence of events out here across the area. Everything is fairly locked and loaded in terms of the stress that's built up across not only the plate boundary, but also numerous fault systems out here across California. Time is getting short. So that's why I like to keep an eye on these areas of interest that we've been seeing. And more specifically, yesterday, we've seen an uptick in earthquake activity out here across a good swath of Southern California. You can almost draw half a circle out here where all the strain and stress is pushing up against the plate boundary. And that not just yesterday, but we're talking about the last 6 to 7 weeks here of elevated activity across Southern California in numerous regions. This here, 4.2, is just a little bit more north than what we've been witnessing here out in the last couple months. Most of the activity has been confined in terms of, a noticeable uptick. Garlock Fault shear zone southward in the Southern California. But today's earthquake, 4.2, could be a sign here that may be working its way up a little bit towards the Bay Area. But we'll just have to keep an eye on it. Either way, I still think we'll see some further activity today in terms of felt earthquakes. There's not a whole lot going on here across the western Pacific. And again, when that happens, normally California is put up in the spotlight, so to speak, in terms of earthquake activity and potential. It includes the west coast, the eastern Pacific out here, but California obviously sitting right on it. Good chunk of it. Highly populated area out here. So we'll keep an eye on that. Getting a little cluster going on here across Ridgecrest. There was an odd earthquake off the coast of Malibu from yesterday, just south of the swarming area there on the Malibu Coast Fault. The swarming area about 6 miles here to the northeast of yesterday's earthquake. A little odd one down there, but still just an overall pattern of elevated activity here recently. Northern California, fairly quiet. Not a whole lot going on up north here. Into the Washington area. Ooh, the Seattle Fault getting a little bit of earthquake activity out here. That's another player that's capable of producing a 7.5 earthquake. Now, similar to Los Angeles, this fault system runs underneath the greater Seattle area. And in respect here, a 7.5 earthquake positioned underneath Seattle would be more dangerous than a 9.0 earthquake here across the Cascadia. And I say that because the proximity of that fault system runs directly underneath Seattle. The fault over here offshore, yes, obviously across the coast here, going to be a shaker and, of course, tsunami. But in terms of damage and shaking that's going to be felt, a 7.5 on the Seattle fault would be much more dangerous than a 9-pointer across the Cascadia. And I said similar to Los Angeles because we have a fault system down here as well called the Puente Hills Thrust Fault that runs directly underneath Los Angeles here, the greater Los Angeles area, East LA, even over towards the Hollywood Hills area. And that's capable of producing a 7.5 earthquake as well. And that would be more devastating to Los Angeles than an 8.1 here across the San Andreas Fault due to proximity. You got the fault running directly underneath this area of Los Angeles, San Andreas Fault over here at distance. So similar type setup for sure. And we got some earthquake activity on the Seattle Fault here today with a 3-pointer, 16 miles deep, followed up by a handful of other earthquakes in there as well. Now, quite a bit of time has passed. I don't remember the exact date, but it's been, I believe, a couple hundred years here since they've seen a significant earthquake out here on the Seattle Fault. I'll have to look into that a little bit more and cover that tonight. But, yeah, a little bit of activity stirring up out there. Things are ramping up. Inland across the rest of the states here, fairly quiet. Not a whole lot going on through Yellowstone. Texas area, couple smaller quakes there in the oil fields out there across Texas. And a look at the rest of the world out here. Again, fairly quiet across the western Pacific. Some older quake activity. A newer quake, 3.6. I'm not really going to count that as sufficient adjustment going on here across the western Pacific. Some older 4s up there in Japan from yesterday. A lot of older quake activity. That's some movement from last night and yesterday across the Philippines area and the Indonesia Islands region. So things have gone absolutely quiet here for now in terms of recent activity. Down in New Zealand, a couple 3s stirring up out there across the southern end of the Kermadec Trench. And, just not a whole lot of newer activity out here. A little bit of movement south into the Bruchili Trench and some Puerto Rico activity. Iceland, a little 3-pointer out there across the rift boundary. Getting a swarm of quakes out here across the... let's see. Here's some deeper movement quakes out here across this area. Eastern Afghanistan up into the Tajikistan or Tajikistan area. And northern Pakistan as well. Seen a swarm of activity. The latest one, a 4.4. Deeper movement quakes here in between these two shallow quakes. So that's somewhat newer activity taking place here recently. The Mediterranean area around Turkey still seeing some 2s and 3s. Nothing big for now. The Atlantic Ocean, aside from this earthquake, way up north here, fairly quiet. So we'll keep an eye on things here today. We just got a little uneasy feeling about this adjustment going on out here recently, and a more northward turn. But in respect there, that could potentially allow further escalation down here. Again, when you move one section of the plate, accordingly, the strain either back builds here across the plate boundary, or potentially it could be adding further strain up here across the Bay Area. But any type of adjustment here along these plates are something to watch very closely. Right now, Southern California, a lot of activity from yesterday. Microquake activity today, mainly, looks like on the Elsinore Fault. A little bit of here and there mixture of earthquake activity all across Southern California right now, just microquake activity. But we'll keep an eye on that. I do have a number of seismograph stations there watching the activity. We'll just be on guard. It's Sunday. Everyone, for the most part, there's a lot of people work on Sunday on the weekends. And but a lot of folks at home with their families who are out doing stuff this weekend. Just got to be prepared out there, folks, and be vigilant. Space weather activity out here on the sun. A little bit of M-flare movement this morning. Not a big deal. In fact, Kevin hasn't even jumped up on it in terms of this M-flare that kicked up earlier this morning. Right about here. Looks like a long duration event. There is a broad reading here on the graph of some type of large explosion. Hard to say exactly where that came from. Let me see here what we got on the latest sun image here. This is going to be the last day or so. We're looking for some type of massive explosion. I'm guessing that may be on the far side of the sun. Let me see here. Getting close to the... There's a little bit of M-flare activity. Oh, look at that back over here. That was some type of far side explosion from that region. Significant flare. And then that was followed up by, it looks like maybe a M-flare here off of our active region. And that's not the one I picked last night. If you were to twist my arm and pick a sunspot, I could have picked this one. But this one's degraded today. This area still has a little bit of complexity here, maybe even a little bit of growth within that center core. But the long duration event is back out on the northeastern limb of the sun. We can't even see it. Let's check out the far side and see what we have out there. This is from the 28th, so a day old. So that means it's going to be this area. This is going to be a little bit closer here to the eastern limb, getting ready to crest out here. So this one even though it looks small in terms of coverage out here, may have quite a bit of complexity within it, within the magnetic core there that it harbors. So we'll have to watch that here in the coming days with that significant far side explosion here. It was pretty significant because we could see it above the area when it was flaring. So 10% chance for X flare. I think that'll change here pending we get that sunspot into view. 55% chance for M flare. C flare at 99% chance. Nothing going on here in terms of the auroras for now. That is just the way it is for now. Pretty quiet. The asteroid approaches out here. See if we got anything going on here on that respect. Are we live? We're still live. I don't know why it does that. It's weird. Sometimes when I'm doing a live update, weird things happen. But it looks like, there we go. It was a little slow for some reason. It shouldn't be that slow. Nothing major going on here for the close approach asteroids here. All over 1 million miles away. So pretty large, 300-foot building size asteroid. Goodness, definitely don't want that coming in. That would probably do a little bit of damage there, but 1 million miles away. That's going to be about 1,630 kilometers away, so we're safe for now. But earthquake activity, folks, keep an eye here on California. A lot going on. And just an overall sign of a larger pattern of earthquakes out here. And, of course, when it's elevated, that's when the percentages and possibilities go up for some larger scale activity. And as you know, we could sit here all day and talk about the many faults that are well overdue. There's more than a handful, a couple handfuls of fault systems and the main plate boundary here that's well overdue for some large earthquake activity. All right, let's check in on the tropics here. These weather forecasting models here shows us, forecasters and whatnot, and viewers, the model trends, so to speak, here. And they've been picking up on some type of tropical system forming in the Gulf of Mexico, pretty much hitting the same area that just got pounded by the Hurricane Helene area with a lot of heavy rain, a lot of damage, flooding rain out there, and even a dam breakage, dam failure out there recently from the previous tropical system there, Helene. And it looks as though on the 4th or 5th of October, this is the latest weather model showing consistency in terms of some type of tropical system, once again, hitting into the same area that just got slammed with the heavy rainfall and storm surge and flooding rain. So going to have to watch that pretty closely. That's almost a worst-case scenario to have another system come right back in when folks haven't even began to recover. Things are still flooded out here across this area. So to have that dump many more inches of rainfall and storm surge, and that would be a devastating event. But we're just here to forecast and watch this model run because they do pick up on trends, right? It picked up fairly significantly on the accuracy of Helene was weeks out in advance. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, you're fear-mongering. You know, that's so far out, it's not even going to happen. Well, look what happened, right? So we have to take this seriously. And this isn't weeks out. This is only on October 5th. We're talking about towards the end of next week. I can't believe it's October already. So we'll keep that into our updates here. Temperature. You guys want to see something absolutely horrible? Well, out here you guys got a nice little taste of fall. It gets warm out there in the Plain States. I get it. Not warm like California though. We're supposed to be in the low 100s again out here for the majority of this coming week, and in fact this weekend looks pretty hot as well. And I am tired of it, folks. I don't see any sign of a cool down out here either. The weather patterns have been a little odd, and we shouldn't really be in the hundreds out here in California in October. I don't live in Death Valley. I live in Chico in the Sacramento Valley, northern end, and I don't recall a hotter summer than what we've experienced, and a longer summer than this 2024 summer. It's absolutely brutal. So let's see what we got going on up here across the. Let me go back here a little bit. Let's see what we got on the weather patterns here, because what goes on up north plays a major part in what goes on down south here across the states. This is for Sunday. Low pressure across the Pacific Northwest. That is the issue right there. Yeah, you got to remember, in between pressures out here, you're going to have either a high or a low pressure ridge, or low pressure pattern, which is normally cooler, stormier weather. We got a significant one up here across Alaska. That's allowing ridging across the west coast. That needs to get out of here if we're going to get any type of pattern change for the west coast. Into the second week of October, that pattern still lingers. It does look like there's a little bit of weakening of that low pressure ridge or low pressure pattern towards the middle of October, but it's still there, which means that we're going to be parked. High pressure ridging is going to be parked over the entire west coast out here. So no signs of fall for a good portion of the country. I'm hoping that will change. That is a horrible pattern to be stuck in, and it's not good. It is not good. So, I'd love to have some rain and some cooler, windier weather out here in California. But if I can't have that, I would at least not want to have hundreds, right? I mean, who gets hundreds in October? That is absolutely crazy. I don't remember it ever being over 100 degrees out here in Northern California in October, and that's what is forecasted out here. Alrighty, I'm out of here, folks. I'm just gonna maybe I'll make me a nice little bed in the closet somewhere and hibernate in there until it starts to cool down, because I am so over summer. I don't know how people enjoy this 100-degree weather. I mean, if summer consisted of 80s and 90s, I'd be okay. I'd be like, yeah, that's awesome. Go out, and enjoy. You can still work in that type of environment outside, do yard work. But when it's 102 every single day, 110, 115, I think we hit 118 this year. A couple days up around that level back in the peak of summer. But that was back in July. It should be over by now. We shouldn't even be anywhere near hundreds right now. And that is what's forecasted here for Northern California this week. Woohoo! Can't wait. Being very sarcastic there, by the way, if you couldn't tell. Have a good day, folks. We'll catch you guys later. Keep an eye on the west coast out here. A lot of interesting earthquake activity on a broad scale. We can't deny here. No one can say, well, this is not a broad area. It's only happening in Southern California or on the San Andreas Fault or any other fault system. No, it's happening all across the area, and now working our way up north a little bit. But keep an eye, on this area here, folks. It is inching closer to something happening out here very soon. We'll catch you guys later. Have a good day. Enjoy your Sunday. And if you got cooler weather, well, I'm going to be a little bit jealous. So get out there and enjoy it. Have a good one.